All right, welcome back. As you can see, the Honorable Benjamin Kalu joins me now. He's the spokesperson for the House of Representatives. Honorable, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nancy. It's a pleasure
Now,
to be here, and good morning to Nigerians.
good morning. Now, let's get started. The President presented the budget proposal last Friday to you and your colleagues. Where are we right now as per the debate, and, what's ongoing right now concerning the budget proposal?
Thank you, Nancy. First of all, let me use this opportunity to celebrate Mr. President for being consistent with regards to the culture of our budget in the effort to sustain this budget calendar as allowed by the Constitution to run from January to December. The rank-or-free relationship between the Parliament and the Executive was actually handy. And many never believed that we were going to be able to sustain this relationship, especially with regards to the daily passage of the budget, back to back. Some thought it was going to be epileptic, but we've been able to establish a new culture in Nigeria that for 4 years, in this last tenure of the president, we've been able to maintain the constitutional calendar for the budget. So I celebrate the leadership of the House. I also celebrate the leadership of the Senate for partnering that though we are three arms of government, we are one government. And I'm happy because the early passage of budget and also early laying of budget and passage of budget has a lot of benefit to our economy. Like you just mentioned, IMF is celebrating the UK for expedited budget. That is how it is. The economy will be able to project better, both in the private sector as well as in the public sector, because it set the roadmap to our economy, and everybody will now know where to queue. Now, where we are at the moment is setting up the schedule for the debate and also the engagement with the various MDAs. And what we'll be concerned with will be whether or not the parameters as recommended by the Parliament for the framing of this budget, if it was complied with. Because if it is complied with, we will now know that we have less work to do. And some of those parameters, some we are in agreement with them when they propose the MTEF, and some we differed a little. For example, we are in agreement with them that 1.69 million minimum barrel per day is good for 2023, regrettably below the OPEC amount that we're supposed to produce, but that is the reality. And we also agree with them that the growth of 3.75% in our GDP for the year of 2023 is not a bad call, and then 17.16% on our inflation is also in order. We are concerned, just like you are, because I know the next question is going to come with regards to that, which is the fiscal deficit, which is at 11.3 trillion. The House is concerned about it because of the attendant debt servicing that is currently in a continuous rise. So we are going to be looking at steps to bring it down, to see how we can review it, to address it when we start our debate. We're also going to look at what they are proposing, which is about 8.43 trillion for domestic and foreign borrowing. We are not against the borrowing, but we are going to be looking at what the borrowing is going to be for. Is it going to be that will help to stimulate the economy so that we will produce, we'll eat what we produce, we'll buy what we produce. We don't know the details, but we will look at that by the time they present it. The House is also gearing up to look at the revenue issue that everybody is complaining about. Something needs to be done about it. And 8889 of the Constitution empowered us to look at where leakages in revenue in government is coming up and try to take steps to block that. So we're going to be looking at the various tax systems that we have in place. For example, tax exemptions and tax waiving system that is in place, because we are in a precarious situation, and we have to review whether some people or some companies that are enjoying our tax exemptions and waivers they actually deserve it. But for those who really deserve, I think the government will do that to stimulate them. But those who can do without it for now, that the nation needs an intervention that will help us, move forward, we are going to look at how to review that. And also the revenue generating agencies, some of them have been lost in their own, space, and we're going to be looking at their lack of compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. How much have they looked at that, especially when it comes to spending their internally generated revenue without approval, from the Parliament? We need to look at that. We also want to look at how they have been remitting their internally generated revenue to the consolidated account. Because if we are looking for money to fund the budget, we must make sure we'll block the excesses that is existing in the system at the moment. We have also discovered that there is no unified electronic platform, that is used by the MDAs, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, as well as the the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, to look at remittances that come in, to reconcile them in real time. It's not existing, and that is causing a gap. And so that gap, we want to find out how this budget seeks to take care of that when we engage with them. Relying on government circulars to spend money is a concern to us, because it's against the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as well as extant laws of our nation, for revenue generating agencies to rely on government circulars to spend money. So we're going to be looking at that. The current projection, based on the MTES that they provided at 437 naira per dollar, but it has 437.57 to US dollar. We are not against that. It's okay. But our problem is that there is a great disparity between that, which is the official rate, and parallel market rate. And the effort to bridge it is what we're going to be engaging with the Budget and Planning Office. And we're going to be engaging with the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria to see how well we can do in bridging that gap, so that it will help economy better. Now, a lot of people are concerned about the oil subsidy, and many have queried, are we leaving it? Why is it not being cancelled outrightly? We had an engagement with the Minister of Finance, and she was very comprehensive in her analysis, which some of us were highly impressed with. She narrated how if we waive the oil subsidy outrightly, it is going to build another monster in our economy. It is better that we phase it, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And if you look at the budget, you will be seeing that this year, unlike other years, we budgeted for they are presenting about 1.7 trillion naira for oil subsidy, and that is saving about 740 billion, which we know that if we save that money, we will help it. We'll use it to reduce our exposure to the 11.3 trillion fiscal deficit exposure. Another thing that is also of concern is that we are in a little disagreement with the executive on the benchmark. The benchmark of 70, I just heard you now mentioning oil price at about 90 something. The benchmark at 70 for us was a little low. We considered other market fundamentals, and especially when you look at what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, you'll find out that the price is on the increase. So we said it is better for us to push it up to about $73 per barrel. And that's where we'll be raising almost 115 billion, which when they have taken the IOC's part of it and not the rest of them, I'm sure a lot of money will be also available for us to keep on reducing our deficit exposure, which is 11.3. So these are some of the things we are going to be looking at when we engage with this, and we are going to be insisting that all the heads of the agencies come and defend what the numbers that Mr. President has dropped before us. The numbers are good, but we cannot justify it on our own. We need to hear from them so that we'll know whether the T's are going to be crossed or the I's are going to be dotted. Their inability to justify that will raise question marks on some of those proposals. Remember, it is still a proposal, a draft, and we have the power of the pause to make sure that we tailor it to meet the needs assessment of our nation.
Okay, Honorable, you said quite a lot, but I will drill down into most of the things you said. I don't know if I heard you correctly, because I really asked earlier on when the debate of the budget proposal will start. I did not hear a response to that. Are you going to commence the debate today on the budget from the House
The,
of Representatives?
the budget, the budget debate supposed to start from today or latest by tomorrow.
Okay.
The debate will start immediately. That is what it is. Once the budget is laid, we don't delay. We start. It is a given. We'll start immediately from the first day and start debating because we really don't have time. We want to be done with this budget end of December.
Okay. So from you, the House of Representatives want to be done with this budget by December so that the president can sign and we kickstart it January 1, 2023. Now, let's drill down into some of the things you said. Yes, you've said quite a whole lot of stuff, and let me start with the 1.69 million barrels per day that has been proposed by Mr. President in terms of our daily oil projections for production as the volume. Aren't we too optimistic there? Bearing in mind just a few months ago, even as we speak now, we are producing less than 1 million barrels per day. And I also do know, because I know you may tell me that government is ongoing right now with security measures. We've seen the disclosure, in fact, the scary disclosure in the last few days about crude oil theft in this country. And I'm wondering that we are all in this country, people are in the helm of their offices, they are supposed to take charge of this, and this kind of carnage is going on in terms of stealing. I don't know if it should even be called stealing anymore. But aren't we too optimistic with that, bearing in mind that we've never met our oil production quota from OPEC, at least in the last, if not 1 year or even 2 years?
I want to say that it is not too optimistic. It's a reasonable projection because granted that those issues are currently bedeviling the sector, steps are being taken, like you rightly pointed out. I'm sure you've already answered the question. That steps, reasonable steps, that we can feel that is bringing back result-oriented steps have been taken by various arms of government, especially the executive. There is a political will to get this resolved. The president is not happy about it, and the president will not like to hand over this nation to it's a transition budget. Would not like to hand over this nation with that oil debt still in existence. And for the part of the parliament, there are various committees that have been set up, not as it used to be, but with a different energy to make sure that those things that has affected the production of oil and also the amount that is registered as the amount produced by Nigeria, that we eliminate it. Because, for example, the Oil Subsidy Committee, and we paid a oversight visit to the Navy headquarters, and we had an interaction, and the people in the field that we engage with confirmed that what they work with and report back to government is what they find in the manifest that is transmitted to them, which means they are not at the loading zone. They are not where these vessels are loaded. They are not. They don't know how much that is loaded. So if we are producing a lot and a little is being registered as a part of what we produce year in, year out, something must be done to stop that. And our recommendation was that members of the security agencies must be where the loading point takes effect, and also register, be part of the drawing of the manifest, so that we document accurately what we are getting out of the country. So that, among other issues going on at the moment, and the Parliament, the executive, all of us are working toward, because we're almost a mono economy, which is regrettably, and that is why we are pushing that through local content was, a principle that we are trying to take away, just take from the oil company and oil sector and spread it across other sectors of the economy. We will be able to find reasons to stimulate national growth through manufacturing and agri and all the rest of them. So we are very concerned. We are very concerned that at the end of the day, something good is going to come out from the interventions that are coming from Parliament and the executive. So it is not optimistic. It's realizable. It is realizable. And Nigerians should keep hope alive on this.
Now, let's talk about the fiscal discipline of the federal government as it relates to borrowing. President Buhari did say on Friday that the government plans to finance the deficit mainly by new borrowings. And in fact, the new borrowings will total about 8.8 trillion naira. 206 billion naira from privatization proceeds and 1.77 trillion naira from drawdowns from bilateral and multilateral sources. How will the House really investigate the issue of borrowings? Because even according to the president, our debt profile is, as of June of this year, 42 trillion naira. That is excluding CBN's borrowing to the federal government that has now climbed from 20 trillion naira to 22 trillion naira. So if you add that 22 trillion naira to 42 trillion naira now, you should be having a debt overhang of about 64 trillion naira. How is the House going to go about this in terms of where do we borrow from? The new borrowings are coming from where exactly?
Yeah, Nancy, thank you. Like I mentioned when I started, when I was giving a background of what we'll be looking out for, this issue you're mentioning happened to be one of the key issues I raised in the course of my introductory statement, where I mentioned that both domestic and foreign borrowing is going to be about 8-point-something trillion, which is proposed. I also went on to say that the details of this has not been made available to us. And our debate is going to be hinged on the details of the borrowing. The details will include the question that you're asking now: where are we borrowing from, how much, and for what? Are we borrowing to spend it? Are we borrowing to invest it to produce? We're going to raise some of those questions how much have we borrowed so far? How healthy is it? For us to borrow in the, looking at the realities around our nation, economically speaking at the moment, and also the global realities. How fair is it to borrow now? How much should we borrow? This debate will be before the House, and it will be championed by the committee of the House that have been set up, that is known as the Loans and Debts Committee of the House. That is a specialized committee that have been equipped with the right experts in financial sector to do the analysis, lead the debate in the House, and have contributions from members. The outcome of such debate will lead to a resolution from the House whether or not we should go on with the executive on their aspiration to borrow 8.8, or we're going to trim it down based on reasons that will be presented before the Parliament when we debate on it.
Okay, Honorable, I just wanted to chip in this because, at least for you as the spokesperson of the House, you can take it back to that committee when they're drilling down on these questions. They also need to have in mind that China, a few days ago, did mention that it's scaling down on lending to majority of its creditors. And Nigeria is, I think, the largest, the biggest, or is it the second biggest creditor? Nigeria is owing China, I think, about 3.5 billion or $3.9 billion, in fact, from $3.5 billion. So if China is saying we are putting the brakes on borrowing, they should also be telling you lawmakers where they will be borrowing from. And the next question to them also should be the capacity to repay those loans. Because as it is right now, debt servicing to revenue ratio is so high. In fact, I think it's one of the worst in the world as we speak. So I just needed to put that in. Now, you mentioned MDA's oversight earlier on while you were talking. I would really like to know the type of oversight we'll be seeing, especially when this budget debate kicks off, when the MDAs will be coming to defend their budgets. What are the kind of things we should be expecting? Because it seems that the House of Representatives is a little, not too hard on these MDAs. That is the sense we are getting. Honorable, are you still there? Okay. Okay. It seems the network is frozen. Let's still try to reconnect with Honorable Benjamin Kalu, who is the spokesperson for at the House of Representatives. We're still drilling down on the 2023 budget proposal as presented by Mr. President last Friday. Let's try and reconnect with Honorable, and we'll be right back. Okay, Honorable, sorry, I think the network was frozen at the point there. I actually asked earlier what kind.
I had you.
Okay, you had the question.
Yeah, I had the question that what are we going to be looking out for when we engage with the MDS?
Yes.
When they come for budget presentation, the things we'll be looking out for will be, first of all, the budget performance report. We want to know the one of 2022, how did they fare? What did they achieve? From there, we'll be able to know whether what they are bringing on board has not been captured before, and how many percentage of that was done, especially when the president has said, I am not doing new projects. What I'm doing is finishing up the ones that we have started, so that it's not every time we'll be opening new projects. So based on that, we will start from that former budget to this budget. And this new budget, we are interested in seeing whether the National Development Plan of the nation is followed by the proposals by the MDAs. And they must justify whatever they are putting there against National Development Plan of the country. For this year, they must justify it based on also on the MTAV, which is a product that is based on research, deliberation by the arms of government, the executive, and the legislature. And so if we see strange things that will not allow us to achieve the development plan of the nation currently, we will actually question that and ask for that to be reviewed. So the truth remains, it's not when we wear our boxing glove, we will show that the parliament is actually out to do their job. We will let the executive know where they need to get it right, as allowed by the Constitution, and we will help them get it right so that we can move on. Anyone thinking that the project that has come from Mr. President will return back to Mr. President the way it came, then does not understand the meaning of the power of the pause. We will review, and then such review will be the reflection of what Nigerians want. Remember, we're going to have a public hearing. Beyond our debates, we're going to have a public hearing like any other piece of legislation. And the feedback from you during that engagement, including the one I'm having with you here as we are speaking, is being documented, and the House will listen to you and all your opinion, because we make use of that as a tool in understanding what the public want that we represent. That way will tailor the law to reflect the needs of the people. So it won't be done by us alone. We'll be looking out for the interests of Nigerians in the entire process.
Now, let's take a look at that aspect that the president did mention, privatization proceeds. And I'm really interested in that. I don't know if you have so much details concerning the privatization proceeds, which the president did say 206.18 billion naira from privatization proceeds. I'm wondering what will be sold at this time to generate those. Are they going to be like the NIPP assets that we've been trying to privatize since 2014, for instance? And even how much proceeds did we even get from PHCN privatization? I think the asset was sold for about $2.6 billion. So I would really like to know if there's clarity or the kind of questions that would also be asked concerning the new sales from government assets.
This is a very good question and a very sensitive one. Sensitive in the sense that we have not done so well in our privatization outing. We've not done, as a nation, we have not done so well with our privatization outings. And the expected result and the expectation management of the government while engaging in that has not yielded the something that will, make Nigerians proud that we went from public to private, and these are the results, the difference between when we were in public and now that we're in private management. That is why the Parliament is going to be very careful in, understanding what the executive have in mind with regards to that particular aspect of the budget. It's one of the things that will not be taken hook, line, and sinker. We don't have all the details at the moment, but I'm sure by the time the MDAs in charge of these presents it before the relevant committees, we will. I'm also a member of our appropriation committee. We will, from the subcommittees of the House, gather again at the appropriation committee for us to do a critical analysis of whether or not we need it now, and if yes, why, with who, and when. So these are the things that we're going to look at. For me to speak on that aspect now, it means like doing the job for the executive. We are the examiners here. The executive are coming to convince us that their dissertation is logical and is defendable. So let them come and defend it. If we have holes, I'll be back here on this your channel to discuss the budget further while the budget presentation and debate is going on. I'm going to be coming once in a while to update the Nigerian people on how far we're doing. So let's keep our fingers crossed until we engage with the MDAs.
Okay. Since, Honorable, you talked about you being the examiner, now take me as your own examiner, because an examiner has an examiner. And, I'm your examiner now. The media should ask you questions, even, as the examiner to the executive. And the question to you right now is that for the National Assembly, the House of National Assembly, you all are also in the searchlight for Nigerians. With these glasses I'm wearing, we're also searching into your souls, as it were. There's a renovation going on right now. Many Nigerians are not happy with that renovation. I have to bring it back. 30 billion naira earmarked into the budget for it, but I'm aware that about 9.2 billion or so has been paid to the contractors. Nigerians are of the view that you guys over there are very wasteful at this point, that we need all the resources we can get, and how come we are borrowing? Can't you all manage where you are?
I can feel the patriotic passion in your voice, and that is very good. I can feel the desire to save more money for Nigeria to solve all that problem, and that is the spirit that we are happy seeing in Nigerians. But it is mostly fueled by ignorance from people who contact you. Some of the people, Nigerians, who complain about it and put it on the parliament. It's not the parliament that is spending that money. That particular property is being managed by the FCDA, and have their own budget. We have no hands in that. So if it is appropriated, we have trimmed it down to get to that level. We are not contractors. We are not Julius Bejo or whatever, whoever. We don't even know the contractors that they gave it to. It's not our call. We don't sit in the bidding room. We don't decide their payment, their bill of engineering, drawing, and all the rest of them. We don't do that. This is their call. They are housing us. We are their tenants because the property is under them. So if there's any money that's being spent, I think this question should be asked during the public hearing when some of you appear. Ask it to FCDA, and some of us will be raising the question to FCDA. But if the question is as to whether that particular property needs attention, you need to be there. I have raised my voice some years ago about that property when I got to the parliament and I became the spokesperson. You cannot be sitting in parliament and water is dropping on your head. It is not dignifying for the nation. You cannot be sitting in plenary and it appears as if the roof is going to cave in. And we preach health and safety. We oversight from Health and Safety Committee, and we want other agencies and private sector to comply with health and safety. We made the law for health and safety. How can we make the law and then also we expose ourselves to the hazards of health and safety non-compliance compliant environment? That place needed to be touched. Most of the things are no longer working there. Most of the conveniences are not working, and people will come for public hearing. I'm sure you've been there before, and you are using your hand fan to fan yourself. And the air conditioners not working, the telephones are not working. So many things have gone back there, and it needs to be touched up. As per the amount, we are not the one about the amount. But as per the need, we are the ones who need it to be fixed. And some of the people who are fighting for this, some of them may not even be returning to the House of Reps or Senate. Some of them have moved on to become governor or have moved on to join private sector. So they were not doing it for themselves. They are doing it because it's an iconic building that is one of the images that we pride ourselves in. And so we are not building it for the members. We are building it for the dignity of a nation called Nigeria. And so it should be protected, it should be preserved, because we cannot afford to build from the scratch again.
Okay. Okay, let me just allow that the slide, because I knew that you will come from that slant that you're a tenant, but I just needed to put that because I know it's the FCDA that is doing that. But you just have 1 minute to answer these two questions. You talked earlier on that while you were doing oversight that you found out that there's no uniform platform for remittances, and I'm wondering what's happening to the Treasury single account. That's one. Then number two, the president also did mention that from his budget proposal that we have exceeded the Fiscal Responsibility Act 3% limit to about 4.78%. Are you going to allow the executive slide like that? Are you going just to allow it slide? Can't you tell the executive perhaps in your debates to be a bit more innovative, to be a bit more prudent and disciplined in their spending so that we don't exceed the FRA limit of 3%? Very quickly, Honorable.
We make the law, and we will not support anyone that will go against the law. So if the details are presented to us and we discover that it's an infringement on already existing law, it's either the laws are amended or we amend the document that is before us. One must go to make sure that we are complying with already extant laws of the nation. We will not support anything that will go against the provisions of our extant laws. That is for sure. And saying, are we just going to allow it to go? We're not going to allow anything to go. That is why there is debate. That is why there is public hearing. That is why that the committees need to listen to those who have presented the budget. The ball has been passed now to the heads of the MDAs. Come and justify your numbers as presented by the head, the president. So your inability to do that, the budget will go on without your own. So it doesn't mean that because the president has presented the budget and maybe you sit in London, you don't come and justify the numbers and we'll pass your budget. Some might even get zero budget, if nothing, if we're not convinced about it. And like I said, we discovered no common electronic platform used by these MDAs. If the one that is there is not being used as it's supposed to be real.
Okay, it seems that the Honorable's picture is frozen again. I'm afraid this is where we will leave it for today. We'll get him again as the debate starts, just like you heard him, the debate on the 2023 budget proposal as presented by Mr. President. Honorable, if you can hear me, that's the much we can take. The network has divided us now. I've been speaking with Honorable Benjamin Kalu, who is the spokesperson for the House of Representatives. Thank you all for joining us today. Be the best you can be and be that change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now.